First Contact and Revelation. Deep in the monitoring station at Arecibo, Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her display in disbelief. The signal pattern she'd been tracking for the past 3 weeks had just changed. What started as a faint, rhythmic pulse from the direction of the Pleiades had suddenly burst into a complex mathematical sequence that defied natural explanation. "Dr. Roberts, you need to see this," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The facility's lead researcher hurried over, coffee cup still in hand. As he leaned in to examine the data, hot coffee splashed onto the floor, forgotten. The signal wasn't just complex. It was responding to Earth's own electromagnetic emissions. With each passing minute, the pattern grew more sophisticated, adapting itself to human communication protocols. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth had confirmed the signal's existence. But that was just the beginning. 3 days after the signal's transformation, oceanographic sensors worldwide detected a massive energy surge emanating from the Mariana Trench. Initial reports suggested seismic activity, but the readings didn't match any known earthquake patterns. The energy signature pulsed in perfect synchronization with the alien signal. The Chinese research vessel, Yanlong, was the first to reach the coordinates. Their deep-sea drones discovered something that shouldn't exist, a perfectly smooth metallic structure larger than an aircraft carrier, resting at a depth of 10,000 meters. Its surface bore no signs of corrosion or marine growth, despite its apparent age. Japanese and American vessels soon joined the investigation. As tensions rose over who would take the lead, the structure made the decision for them. It began to move. Rising from the depths with impossible grace, the object breached the surface like a mechanical leviathan. Seawater cascaded off its pristine hull, revealing intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. The assembled ships maintained their distance, weapons armed but unused, as the object stabilized itself 50 meters above the waves. Dr. Chen, now aboard the U.S. Hawking, watched through binoculars as the first drones approached the structure. "It's not alien," she whispered, though she couldn't explain why she was so certain. "It's ours. Humanity's." The structure's response to the drones confirmed her intuition. Rather than defensive measures, it extended welcoming platforms, perfectly sized for human investigation teams. The surfaces adapted to provide ideal traction for human boots, and the atmospheric barriers it generated matched Earth's composition exactly. Inside, the research teams found something extraordinary, a vast library of human history, but not the one they knew. Holographic displays activated at their approach, showing images of a civilization that spanned galaxies. Humanity had not evolved on Earth. They had chosen it as a sanctuary, deliberately forgetting their true heritage. As Dr. Chen studied the library's contents, she discovered the reason for their voluntary regression. The images showed beings of pure energy, entities that had declared themselves gods, demanding worship from younger races. Humanity had refused to kneel. But rather than fight an endless war, they had hidden their true nature, seeding their technology throughout the galaxy in dormant forms, waiting for the right moment to reawaken. The signal from the Pleiades wasn't first contact. It was a warning. The self-proclaimed gods had discovered another young race, and were moving to subjugate them. Humanity's long sleep was ending ahead of schedule. In orbit, satellites began detecting unusual energy signatures. The moon's surface rippled as ancient defense systems stirred to life. Beneath every ocean, more structures were awakening. Humanity had prepared for this moment for millennia, hiding their true strength in plain sight. Dr. Chen stood at a control interface, her hand hovering over what appeared to be an activation panel. The choice before humanity was clear: remain in comfortable ignorance, or reclaim their place among the stars and face the beings that had driven them into hiding. The panel hummed beneath her fingers, awaiting humanity's decision. Around the world, more structures were emerging. The signal from the Pleiades grew stronger, carrying with it echoes of a desperate civilization's plea for help. Humanity's time of hiding was over. The only question was, Were they ready to remember who they truly were? The awakening. The decision took less than an hour. As governments argued and military leaders debated, Dr. Chen made the choice that would alter humanity's course forever. Her hand pressed against the activation panel, and across the globe, millions of dormant synapses in human minds began to stir. The awakening started subtly. A maintenance worker in Mumbai suddenly understood how to reprogram matter at the quantum level. A teenager in Sao Paulo found herself instinctively grasping 11-dimensional mathematics. A farmer in Kenya began sketching designs for faster-than-light engines in the soil of his fields. But it wasn't random. The ancient systems were selective, choosing individuals whose minds could handle the strain of recovering millennia of suppressed knowledge. Dr. Chen watched as her own understanding expanded exponentially, ancient memories surfacing like bubbles in deep water. "We didn't just hide our technology," she explained to Dr. Roberts, her eyes gleaming with newfound knowledge. "We encrypted it into our DNA, waiting for the right moment to decrypt it. Every human carries fragments of our true heritage in their genes." The transformation accelerated. Within days, hidden facilities beneath every major city began activating. The Great Pyramid of Giza revealed itself to be a quantum computing core. The Earth's magnetic field shifted slightly as long-dormant defense systems came online. But the awakening didn't go unnoticed. High above the solar system's ecliptic plane, vast entities stirred. The Watchers, as humanity had once known them, detected the changes beginning on Earth. These beings, composed of pure energy and dark matter, had believed their greatest rivals safely devolved and contained. The first of their scout ships appeared like tears in reality, geometric shapes that hurt human eyes to look at directly. They took up positions around Jupiter, their presence causing the gas giant's storms to swirl in unnatural patterns. Inside the Pacific facility, now identified as Nexus Point Alpha, Dr. Chen accessed humanity's ancient records of their previous encounters with the Watchers. The images made her breath catch. Entire star systems reduced to subatomic particles, planets reshaped into impossible geometries, and civilizations driven to madness by the mere presence of these self-proclaimed gods. But humanity had been different. Where other species had tried to match the Watchers' power directly, humanity had developed technologies that worked on entirely different principles. They hadn't tried to become gods. They had found ways to deny godhood itself. The memories flooding back through the activated genetic keys showed Dr. Chen why this had terrified the Watchers more than any weapon. Humanity's greatest power wasn't in their technology, but in their ability to show other species that godhood was a choice that could be rejected. As the scout ships multiplied around Jupiter, Earth's reawakening continued. The moon's surface began to shift, revealing vast hangars containing ships that had waited eons to fly again. Beneath Mars' polar ice caps, fabrication facilities started producing technologies that even the Watchers had never mastered. But humanity's advantage was fading quickly. The Watchers were calling in their full force. Beings that had witnessed the birth of galaxies were now turning their full attention to Earth. The scout ships were just the beginning. Dr. Chen felt the weight of accumulated millennia as more knowledge surfaced in her mind. Humanity hadn't hidden on Earth out of fear, but as part of a longer strategy. They had known this day would come, had planned for it across generations, so long that history had become myth. In orbit, the first of Earth's defensive systems began to power up. They weren't weapons in any conventional sense. They were something far more dangerous to beings that thought themselves gods. They were proof that divinity was a choice, not a destiny. The final pieces of humanity's ancient plan were falling into place, but the Watchers were moving faster than expected, and the knowledge stored in human DNA was still largely dormant. The question wasn't whether humanity could stand against these cosmic entities. It was whether they could remember enough of who they were in time. As the first waves of exotic energy from the Watchers' main fleet reached the solar system, Dr. Chen realized the true race had begun. It wasn't a race to build weapons or raise shields. It was a race to remember who they were before the gods arrived to remind them of who they were supposed to be. Legacy of the Stars. The Watcher's fleet emerged from hyperspace in waves, their ships defying conventional physics. Each vessel was unique, shaped by thought rather than construction, some as large as small moons. They arranged themselves in a complex geometric pattern around Jupiter, their presence causing quantum fluctuations that made Earth's finest instruments struggle to maintain coherence. But humanity's awakening had reached a crucial tipping point. Dr. Chen stood in the newly activated command center beneath the Pacific facility, surrounded by holographic displays showing the status of Earth's reactivating defense grid. Each display tracked the progress of humanity's remembering, not just of technology, but of who they truly were. "We're receiving transmissions from the Pleiades again," her assistant reported, fingers dancing across an interface that had been impossible technology 3 days ago. "Their resistance against the Watchers is crumbling. They're asking if the legends of humanity are true." The legends. Dr. Chen now remembered them clearly. Stories passed down through countless species about the ones who had walked away from godhood. Humanity hadn't just rejected the path of the Watchers. They had shown others it was possible to choose a different way. Deep beneath Antarctica, the largest of Earth's hidden facilities burst to life. The ice sheet above it sublimated instantly as ancient engines began to power up. This wasn't just another weapons platform or shield generator. It was the key to humanity's true legacy. The Watchers detected it immediately. Their scout ships pulled back, geometric forms twisting in what might have been concern. They recognized the energy signature, remembered what it had meant billions of years ago when humanity first deployed it. "It's not a weapon," Dr. Chen explained to the assembled military leaders who had gathered in the command center. "It's a choice made manifest in technology. We found a way to encode free will itself into the fabric of reality." The Antarctic facility rose from its icy tomb, revealing itself to be a vast crystalline structure that pulsed with possibilities. Each facet reflected not light, but potential, the potential of choice, of rejection, of finding another way. The Watchers' response was immediate and devastating. Space itself seemed to tear as their weapons fired, weapons that could unmake matter, that could rewrite the laws of physics in localized areas. The attacks struck Earth's outer defense grid with apocalyptic force. But humanity had planned for this. The attacks didn't meet shields or point defense systems. Instead, they met choice. Each weapon the Watchers fired had to traverse space that humanity had seeded with their legacy technology, space where the very concept of absolute power became meaningless. In orbit, the moon's surface finally completed its transformation, revealing the true face of humanity's guardian. It wasn't a battle station or a weapon. It was a monument to choice, a physical reminder that even gods were bound by the decisions they made. The Pleiades' resistance watched through their quantum-entangled sensors as humanity demonstrated why they had been so feared, so respected, and ultimately so different. Where other species had built bigger weapons or stronger shields, humanity had found a way to remind the universe that power was always a choice. Dr. Chen accessed the Antarctic facility's main systems, her mind expanding to encompass the full scope of humanity's plan. The facility wasn't just a defensive installation. It was a beacon, designed to broadcast the truth that humanity had discovered eons ago. Divinity was a cage of one's own making. The Watchers' fleet began to shift, their geometric forms becoming more erratic. They had expected to find a primitive species struggling to remember its past. Instead, they found their ancient nightmare, a species that had not only rejected godhood, but had found a way to share that rejection with others. As the final pieces of humanity's defense grid activated, Dr. Chen understood why her species had chosen to hide, to forget, to wait. They hadn't been planning for a war. They had been preparing to offer the universe a choice. The real question was no longer whether humanity could stand against the Watchers. The question was, how many other species would choose to stand with them? Above Earth, the Watchers' fleet paused in its assault, perhaps sensing for the first time in billions of years that they too had a choice to make. The return of the Guardians. The Watchers' pause lasted precisely 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Then, as if reaching a collective decision, their fleet began to change. The geometric shapes of their vessels melted and reformed, combining into a singular mass that darkened the space around Jupiter. They were done maintaining the pretense of individual forms. They were showing their true nature as a unified consciousness. But humanity had expected this too. Dr. Chen accessed the Antarctic facility's deepest archives, unlocking memories that humanity had hidden from itself. "They're trying to remind us of their power," she explained to the gathered leaders. "But they're actually showing us their greatest weakness." The unified mass of the Watchers began to move toward Earth, its passage distorting space-time. Stars seemed to bend around it, their light twisted by forces that defied comprehension. But as it approached Mars' orbit, something unprecedented happened. The quantum field that humanity had carefully maintained for millennia activated. Suddenly, the Watchers found themselves unable to maintain their unified form. Their consciousness, so long accustomed to acting as one, began to fragment into individuals. "This is what they feared most about us," Dr. Chen said, watching the massive entities struggle against the field. "Not our weapons or our technology, but our understanding of choice. We proved that even a unified consciousness must be made of individuals choosing to be unified." From beneath Mars' surface, humanity's guardians emerge. They weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were physical manifestations of choice, each one powered by the decision of its crew to remain individual while working in harmony with others. The Pleiades' resistance, watching through their quantum sensors, began to understand. Humanity hadn't just rejected godhood. They had found a way to protect the very concept of individual choice. Their technology didn't destroy or conquer. It preserved the right to choose. As the Watchers' unified form continued to fragment, something remarkable happened. Some of the fragments didn't try to rejoin the whole. For the first time in billions of years, individual Watchers were choosing to remain separate. The Antarctic facility's beacon pulsed stronger, its message clear to any consciousness that could perceive it. Unity is meaningful only when it's chosen. Power is legitimate only when it can be rejected, and godhood is nothing more than a choice that can be unmade. Dr. Chen watched as humanity's guardians took up positions around Earth. These weren't warriors preparing for battle. They were witnesses, ready to testify that another way was possible. Their presence wasn't a threat, but a reminder. Every being in the universe, no matter how powerful, always has a choice. The fragmenting Watchers' mass reached Mars' orbit, and the full power of humanity's quantum field engaged. The space between planets became a testament to free will, each cubic meter infused with the possibility of choice. The Watchers could still attack, still unleash their godlike powers, but now each action would have to be a conscious individual decision. Some of the fragments began to retreat, choosing for the first time in their existence to act independently. Others pressed forward, but their attacks were different now. Questioning, uncertain, individual. In the command center, Dr. Chen accessed humanity's final protocol. "We didn't hide on Earth because we were afraid," she announced. "We hid because we needed to prove something, that even the most primitive version of humanity would choose freedom over godhood when given the chance." The guardians around Earth began to power up, not with weapons, but with the accumulated weight of billions of individual human choices made across millennia. Each choice to remain free, to reject absolute power, had been preserved and encoded into their very structure. The remaining Watchers faced a decision that none of them had ever had to make as individuals: continue their attack and prove humanity right about the corrupting nature of power, or stop and consider that perhaps, after all these ends, they too deserved the right to choose their own path. Above Mars, the battle for the future of choice itself was about to begin. Reclamation. The space between Mars and Earth became a battlefield unlike any in the history of the cosmos. But this wasn't a battle of weapons and shields. It was a war of ideas, fought with the fundamental forces of consciousness itself. The Watchers who chose to continue their attack found themselves facing an unprecedented challenge. Each attempt to unleash their godlike powers required them to consciously choose to override the free will of others. For beings that had acted as a unified consciousness for billions of years, the weight of individual responsibility proved staggering. In the Antarctic Command Center, Dr. Chen monitored the quantum readings as more Watchers began to separate from their collective. "They're remembering who they were," she explained, "before they chose to become gods. The guardians humanity had positioned around Earth didn't attack. Instead, they began broadcasting memories, not just human memories, but the preserved experiences of every species that had faced the Watchers. Each memory showed the same truth. Godhood wasn't a destination but a prison. Power wasn't a right but a burden." The Pleiades resistance, still watching through their quantum sensors, made their own choice. Their ships, previously hiding in the outer solar system, emerged from stealth, but they didn't move to attack the Watchers. Instead, they positioned themselves alongside humanity's guardians, adding their own memories to the broadcast. Deep within the quantum field, something unprecedented began to happen. The Watchers who had chosen to remain separate started to remember their own past, not as gods, but as explorers who had once looked up at the stars with wonder rather than ownership. "This was always humanity's true power," Dr. Chen said, watching the transformation unfold. "Not the ability to fight gods, but the ability to remind them of who they were before they forgot how to choose." The remaining unified mass of Watchers made one final attempt to assert their power. They gathered their strength for an attack that would have unmade the solar system. But as they prepared to strike, they faced something they hadn't encountered in billions of years: doubt. In that moment of hesitation, humanity's quantum field reached its full strength. The Antarctic facility released the full archive of human memory, not just their technological achievements or their battles, but every small choice that had led them to reject godhood. Every time a human had chosen to help another without seeking power in return, every moment of wonder at the universe's mysteries, every decision to remain human despite the temptation of more. The attack never came. One by one, the remaining Watchers chose to separate from their collective, not because they were forced to, but because they remembered what it meant to choose. The geometric patterns of their ships began to shift, no longer displaying perfect unity, but expressing individual identity. The Pleiades resistance witnessed something they had thought impossible: beings they had feared as gods choosing to step down from their self-made thrones. Dr. Chen accessed the final records in the Antarctic facility, understanding at last the full scope of humanity's plan. "We didn't hide our technology to protect ourselves," she realized. "We hid it to protect them, to give them a chance to remember how to choose." As the last of the Watchers separated from their collective, a new kind of communication began. Not the absolute pronouncements of gods, but the uncertain, hopeful messages of beings rediscovering their individuality. Some of the Watchers chose to retreat into deep space, needing time to rediscover who they were. Others remained, asking to learn from humanity how to live with choice again. The Pleiades resistance found themselves becoming teachers alongside humanity, helping ancient beings remember how to cherish uncertainty and possibility. In the end, humanity's greatest victory wasn't defeating the Watchers. It was helping them choose to stop being gods. Dr. Chen stood in the Antarctic facility, watching as the quantum field settled into a stable pattern around the solar system. Humanity had reclaimed its place among the stars, not as conquerors or gods, but as witnesses to a fundamental truth. The universe's greatest power wasn't in unmaking worlds or commanding reality, but in the simple, profound ability to choose who you wanted to be. The age of gods was over. The age of choice had begun.